Oh, excuse me. Hi, glad you could be here with us today. Welcome to the front page, another edition of the front page on GNAT TV. I'm Andrew McKeever, the managing editor of the Manchester Journal, and usually I'm not here with a guitar in hand, but today we have a special two-part show we're going to be doing with my friend Duane Carleton, who is a musician from the Rutland area, plays down here in Manchester every now and then. So if you're fortunate enough to be around when he's down in the neighborhood next time, you ought to drop on by and see him. He has recorded a new CD, which we're going to be talking about in a moment. And in the second part of our show, we're going to be talking about a documentary movie he made about Sarah Hunter, the golf pro killed under tragic circumstances back in 1986. Stay with us. We're going to be right back talking to Duane Carleton about his new CD and then the movie. Well, Duane, great to have you with us today. Really a pleasure. I remember the first time I saw you play was at, I think, Maxwell's up in Manchester, and that would have been, what, 7 or so years ago? But I remember it was a great show, and I thought, wow, this guy is really good.
Thank you.
And you've just released your 17th CD. It's called A Girl Like That. It's got some great stuff on it. I just downloaded it from iTunes the other night, so I can tell you, you take my word for it, it's good. So, Duane, how does one go about, I guess the main question I wanted to ask was, how does one go about making 17 CDs, living in Vermont, being an independent musician, and making a go of it? I mean, is there some magic formula to all that, or you just kind of keep plugging and writing and performing and just keep going?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. But
my pleasure.
Well, I guess the quick answer would be that maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment. I don't know. But part of it is, like you say, just plugging away. But some of, I mean, I am fairly prolific as far as songwriting goes. I write all the time. So, I mean, even now, I've got enough where I could put out another record or possibly 2 right now. You know, so I have a backlog of material. You know, it's, yeah, how do you get to 17 records? You just keep doing it and, you know, hoping that the next record, each record progresses from the last record and that your songwriting gets better and, you know. But yeah, I mean, I keep writing songs, so then I kind of, well, I need to make some kind of a record of that group of songs, and then I'm on to the next group.
When did you release your first one?
Probably somewhere around 90, 91, somewhere in there. Yeah.
So do you ever go back and listen to that and then compare it to some of the material you're doing now and thinking, wow, I have come a long way?
Yeah, there's that, like I said, you hope that you progress as you go. And I definitely feel that. I mean, I've told other people that have, you know, that are working on their first album or 2 that, you know, you're going to learn things on each project that you learn, okay, this didn't work, don't do that anymore. Or this worked really well, you know, keep that bit and then keep experimenting with the part that didn't work to find out what does work, so that each album you do gets better. You learn, you know, you gain more knowledge about the recording process, writing, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I haven't listened to my old albums in quite a while, but you know, like I say to people, there's also a point where you need to just cut the tie. That you could sit there and spend 5 years making a record trying to make it perfect, but there's a point where you have to go, I need to cut it loose, and I know that 10 years down the road, I could make that record better, but you got to remember, it's a moment in time, and there's a point where you have to let that go.
Well, the big story around recorded music, if you go back, if you compare it today to, like, say, the early 90s, now we have, you know, downloadable music. The technology has completely changed. The marketing of music has really changed. I imagine back in the 90s or 80s when you were playing, you know, you had record companies, they did a lot of the promotion, they kind of organized tours, they did this, they did that. Whereas now it seems like a lot of that power, or I guess that's the right word, or maybe the responsibility, has now, it's been taken away from the record company, and it's maybe on the back of the artist himself to do it. I mean, is that the case? And I guess my question would be, do you think all these technological changes have made it easier or harder to kind of you know, establish oneself as a professional musician?
There's upsides and downsides on both sides of it. I don't know that I would agree that the power has been taken away from the record companies. I kind of view it more like they've gotten rid of that responsibility to some degree. I mean, there's a lot of things that have gone on that have brought us to this point. The technology is a big part of it. For example, the first time I ever recorded, my band in high school did a demo, and we're talking early 80s, 16-track, 1-inch tape. You know, you actually were in a room playing together. And my guitar tone in 1983 was not really as refined as it is today on the electric guitar. I kind of had an electric guitar sound like a chainsaw at full throttle.
Well, that was kind of the style of the time.
It was a work in progress.
And back to a few of the groups back then.
Yeah.
Your chainsaw sounds about right.
Well, so the guy that was recording us at the time, I believe his reaction was, "What is that?" when I took a guitar solo. So I watched him after the fact find, very slowly turning the reels on the tape till he found the first beat of my guitar solo, marked it with a grease pen, cut it with a razor blade, found the back end of it, cut that with a razor blade, and ran my solo into the trash and then spliced the tape back together. That's how it was done back then. And that was kind of an eye-opening experience. And so as time has gone on, back then, to record was a major deal, to go to a studio. We're talking really expensive. Now, you can buy, your computer comes with recording software, GarageBand or what have you.
Yeah.
So, yes, it put technology into the hands of everybody. Anybody and everybody can make a record. That doesn't mean they're going to make a good record. Somebody who has an old cassette 4-track that knows what they're doing and can write a good song is going to make a better recording than somebody with all of the equipment in the world and software in the world, but with a crappy song and no skill. You recorded it, but it's, look at YouTube right now. It's like anybody and everybody, now that you've got video on your cell phone, everybody can shoot video. Doesn't mean anybody's going to watch it. And the problem is, because now there's so many people recording and making videos, you're a grain of sand on the beach. How do you get anybody to notice you? I personally kind of missed that back then record companies really were kind of weeding people out. You had to get to a certain point to get on that label, and then they developed you as an artist over time. That's kind of gone by the wayside, because now if you're a new artist on a record label, first of all, you're one of a very few new artists on that label, and they are not going to develop you. They're not going to they're not going to say, we know that you're not going to come up with a hit until your third record. You don't produce right off the bat, you're gone. And they're going to spend most of their money on what they already know is their bankable artists, your Garth Brooks, your Rolling Stones, your Britney Spears. The other thing was, there was a lot of things that happened that now made it so that as an artist, you're being stolen from. I know we were going to touch on that music is very easy to take, and download. And whereas, back in the old days, you put out an album, the worst that somebody could do was, record it onto a cassette. You were not getting an exact reproduction of the original, As soon as they came out with burnable CDs and everybody got access to them, that's when, and then the internet came along, file sharing came along. All of these things coalesced into bad things for record companies, because you then could steal and share an exact duplicate of the original and disseminate it to the world.
Right.
And what happened was the floodgates opened, and no one has ever been able to figure out how to cram the genie back in the bottle.
So a big problem, I'm sure. And I guess on balance, do you think that the new world of today is better in some ways because it gives artists more freedom, or the problems that come with that technology, really the balance is a little not so great?
Yeah, that's like I say. There's pluses and minuses. I mean, it's great that anybody can make a record.
Yeah.
And that there are plenty of people that are very talented, that are good songwriters, good players that have access to that technology. But I do think that there was something to be said for being under the umbrella of a big label. That they, back then, if somebody was stealing from you, they were stealing from them, they were going to be more apt to do something about
Take it
it.
to court.
It was definitely not as rampant as it is now. Like I say, the other downfall of that is that everybody has access to it. So that means there's lots of people that are not making good records.
Well, take us under the hood of the creative process when you go through. I mean, where do ideas for songs come from? I mean, are you just driving along on the road and you suddenly think about something, or a couple of words pop into your head, or something like that, or how does the process work? And it's probably different for every song, maybe, but where do these ideas come from?
It's definitely different for every song, and I do a lot of my writing driving in my car. I spent a lot of time driving, and actually about 3 or 4 albums ago, I blew the speakers in my car listening to rough mixes on the way home from the studio. So I don't have music in my car, so I tend to write a lot. And yes, sometimes it's coming up with a riff, sometimes it's a chord progression, sometimes it's coming up with a phrase, just a little hook line, and then how can I add to that? Then it becomes like a jigsaw puzzle, and it's, where can I take the song next to keep the listener, interested? And that part is really a lot of fun, trying to create a song that's interesting, that says something. Sometimes the inspiration is, current events. It could be anything and everything, personal experiences, or it could just be I came up with a hook line that I really liked and I built a song around it.
So is that like words come first and then the music later? You tend to do the whole thing?
It's always different. And then there's even songs that I've done where, I had this little piece that I wrote 15 years ago that was never finished, but all of a sudden I came up with something now, and they dovetail together, or I can steal things from unfinished songs and use them in song, and so there's no exact way that I do it. It's sometimes the song comes very quickly. There was a song, "Leaving Despair," that Laura Molinelli actually sang on my last album, Rust. I wrote that song in 20 minutes in my driveway, just hanging out with my guitar. Like I say, some songs are 20 years in the making,
Others are 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about the new one here, "A Girl Like That." I mean, sounds kind of country rock, I guess. Would that be the rough genre to describe it, or
to
without
me
trying to be too much of a pigeonholer?
Unfortunately, I think that happens a lot today. I think that's another change in the music world that is not necessarily for the better. That everybody is become very, they segregate themselves, really.
Yeah.
I mean, they pigeonhole themselves. Like, I listen to this kind of music or that kind of music. I describe it as, Americana. It's got a little jam band element to it. I mean, a couple of the songs, kind of have that Allman Brothers kind of vibe to it, where it stretches out a little bit, and so there's a focus on the instrumental playing, But, Americana / jam band, it's all rock and roll to me,
You're playing with a group on the CD. A lot of your appearances, though, it seems like they're solo performances by yourself.
Yeah.
Do you get together with these friends of yours just to record albums, or do you play with them as well?
No, I play with my band, the Backwoods Messiahs. It's and we, most of my gigs are by myself, but I'm hoping to see my band, start doing more gigs. I've actually got a really good group of guys together right now, and it's at this point, this record has helped us kind of really evolve into our own sound, something that's evolving into our own thing with the live shows, and we're stretching out a little bit. We switch up instruments. we introduce, like, some tunes are done in an acoustic, more of an acoustic format. There's mandolin, there's lap steel, there's, baritone electrics, and then others are more full-blown electric rock and roll extravaganzas, So, I mean, it covers a lot of territory. There's subtleties, and then,
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't we hear a little bit of it? We're going to try and play together here, and we'll be right back. All right. Well, so as part of our special and unusual show today, we're both, Duane's going to teach me how to do a song that's on his new album, A Girl Like That. It's called Love or Nothing.
Love and Nothing.
Love and Nothing. Yeah, the two things are not mutually exclusive, I guess, right?
That's right.
Just seems that way sometimes. So anyway, we're going to start this off and see where it goes, and my job will be to try to keep up with Duane here as we go through this little acoustic number here. So I hope you enjoy it. It's called Love and Nothing on his new CD, A Girl Like That.
You ready?
Ready.
All right, I'll give a count to 3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Childhood, is it just a reason to cry? Fading memories and photographs you cast aside, till you start to forget the wheres and the whys. Maybe it's time to stop trying to hide. Sometimes you gotta force yourself to try, 'cause a little bit of love and nothing gets you by. Sunrise, do you wanna see another one? Then you can be afraid when the night time comes. Don't let your worries push you around. Oh, for sure, the darkness gonna swallow you down. Sometimes you gotta force yourself to try, 'cause a little bit of love and nothing gets you by. Heaven's on fire tonight. Never seen the stars shine so bright. I wish I may, I wish I might hitch a ride upon my kite and fly away. Money makes the world go big, so you work and you slave to keep up with the facts. You think the more that you got is the more that you have. I shake my head, 'cause it's just too damn sad. Sometimes you've gotta force yourself to try, 'cause a little bit of love and nothing gets you by.
All right. We should do this again sometime.
There you go.
Well, thank you all for listening. That was fun.
That was fun.
Sometimes you've gotta force yourself to try, 'cause a little bit of love and nothing gets you by.